Hi, everyone. It's Debbie, and it's time for Sunday Chat on the 19th of April. Oh my, I say this all the time. What a week! What a week. And so I'm checking in and seeing how you're doing. And I wanted to share, I was so excited. This a week ago tomorrow on Monday, I started a 6-week series at our local senior center called Wild Women Rising. And I was just over the moon thrilled with the number of women who signed up and were brave enough to walk through the door. There were a couple of them that came with friends, but most of them came on their own and not knowing me or what they're getting themselves into. But really, the connection was becoming being in a tribe, being in a circle of women that you can learn and experience and laugh and cry and support each other. And it was so amazing. And our first topic, which just the topic itself, they had to be brave to walk through the door, was releasing the labels or who we are underneath the labels that people see us as from the time we were born and we were little, we were given labels. And I remember my dad always called me his little princess. And so for I remember a guy I was dating said, "Oh, you're just like a princess." And it was like, "Oh, so my dad saw my value. I wish you could see my value." We didn't date for very long. TMI, here I'm off on a rant. But I'm talking about labels and how I am just so humbled and blessed to be a part of this new circle of women that have come in. And I wanted to just share a little bit about what I wrote in my journal about that week and just my thoughts with some of that, and then have a closing blessing. But I also have a couple of questions for you to kind of reflect on. And if you want to give your thoughts on that, that would be great. This group, I can't have any more people in it because we have to have time for that sharing and that intimacy within the group. And this is really one of the largest groups I've facilitated. But there is a waiting list at the center in Brainerd. If you want, I can, if there's enough people, I'll do the series over again. And so I'll leave that information in the description if you're in the Brainerd Lakes area and interested. So let me just share a little bit of my journaling, but think about you and your labels and what kind of labels have you been living with and who is you and you've incorporated into your life. Um, so this past week, I had the privilege of gathering in a beautiful circle of women, and some knew each other, but most of us did not. And yet, something sacred happened in that room. These women began setting down the labels that they had carried for years: mother, wife, widow, caretaker, professional, strong one, helper, survivor. For a little while, they were not who the world expected them to be, they were simply themselves. And I was reminded of something very important. So many people spend their lives being known by their roles while quietly wondering if anyone sees their soul. I think all of us can identify with that to a point. Sometimes we even forget who we are beneath the names, the responsibilities, the titles, and the masks that we learn to wear. But beneath all of that, there's a deeper self, the quiet self, the smart self, the wise self, the authentic self, the brave self, the amazing self. And that's often where intuition lives. And that's going to be our next topic for tomorrow. because the intuition doesn't usually speak through the noise of identity. It speaks through the truth of our soul. That's what intuition is. When we begin releasing who we thought we had to be, we often begin to hear who we truly are, and not to become someone new, because we are who we are, but to remember who we were before the world named us. It's inside of us, and it's amazing, and it's such a beautiful light, and that's who you are. So, a reflection question I have for you is, okay, take a breath. Think about this. Who am I when I gently set down the labels I have carried? That's deep. And we spent 2 hours in discussion and we just barely scratched the surface. But that's something for you to think about. And then I really like this question. What part of me is waiting to be heard beneath the roles that I carry? Who is that you? Maybe there's some of you that this you that you are is just screaming to come out and just be who you are and not give a crap what other people think of you, because who you are is amazing. And and not to have that light be dimmed, but to have that light grow. And that's what we're practicing every single day. Sometimes minutes in a day, hours in a day, we're doing this practicing of all of that. And so it'd be interesting just for you in your quiet awareness and into the gentleness of your heart energy and that beautiful spirit soul that is a creation and part of God and the universe and Jesus and all. It's just this beautiful, wonderful, perfect soul light that you are. And so here's a little closing blessing. All right, let's take another breath. The closing blessing. Okay, hands to heart. May you have the courage to release the labels that no longer fit. May you trust the quiet voice that lives beneath the noise. May your soul remember who you were before the world defined you. And it's not just the world, it's starting with our parents and our family members, and then we start creating friends and teachers. And I think that we all have significant people in our lives that we can identify with labels, and it's something that either diminishes us or challenges us to grow into more of who we are. And so in those challenging questions, there's a nudge and an intuition that's rising within you to come forward and be who you are. And may your inner wisdom gently lead you home to yourself. Got a beautiful home. This body is our beautiful home. And we're taking as good a care of it as we can and trying to stay in a place of peace within our heads with all the craziness going on in the world. May you have some of that peace that you can take breaths and breathe into and quiet yourself and your heart and be that authentic part of who you are, and just be still and breathe and smile. Put your hands on your heart and say, I love you, I love you, I love you. It's important that we do. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for being such a beautiful light and being authentically you in the world, because who you are is so important. And I think that I'm not the same person I was a year ago, certainly not 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, because I've been growing and growing more into myself. And thank goodness that we're doing that. And so that authenticity and that part of who we are keeps coming up, up, up and coming forward. And our world is so lucky that that happens for us and that we're willing to take and have the courage to take down some of those masks and some of those labels. And maybe even people will look and go, well, that doesn't sound like you. Maybe some of you have had that comment before, but maybe it is. And good for you. So here's to us and being who we are beautifully created to be, and a blessing for the world to have as a gift is you and your light. And thank you for that. So you have a great week. Take deep breaths, take good care. And thanks for your hearts and your positive comments and insights. I appreciate each one of you. All right, you take care till next time. Bye for now. Mwah. Love you.